time for Dodger Baseball. Live from AT&T Park in San Francisco, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Francisco Giants. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good day to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers and Giants in the final game of the three-game series. But don't forget, they'll start it all over again Monday night at Dodger Stadium, and probably with Clayton Kershaw and a rematch with Madison Bumgarner. Today, maybe it seems like a letdown after the two big stars last night. Today, Ryan Vogelsong on the mound for the Giants. He is a far better pitcher at home than he is on the road. His earned run average at home is 3. On the road, it's over 5. For the Dodgers, Mike Bolsinger just called up from the Coast League at Oklahoma City. He was the player of the week, the pitcher of the week, by having 11 shutout innings, and he struck out 17. So he deserves a shot. It's an important assignment. It allowed Zach Greinke to get an extra day's rest, and Greinke will open up against the San Diego Padres. For the Dodgers, a somewhat sobering thought. Last year, they played 9 games up here. They won 6 of the 9, meaning they lost only 3. Well, here they are in the first 2 games, losing both of them, and that has to shake up a ball club that arrived here with a 7-game winning streak. The Dodgers are still a couple of percentage points against Padres, but it's very early in the year to talk about standings. So those are the pregame stats and stories. Right now, stay tuned for a very good ball game and a whole lot more right after this.
Dodgers not rolling so far. They're going to try to avoid the sweep in San Francisco. Game 3 of the Dodgers and Giants coming up here on Sportsnet LA in just minutes. Time now for the game changer brought to you by T-Mobile. Alex Guerrero getting the start at third base. Look at his season stats. 7 for 13. He has 11 RBIs this year. Mike Trout, Miguel Cabrera have fewer RBIs than Alex Guerrero does, playing very little. There's still more on this series finale coming up. Alana Rizzo will have an update on Dodgers catcher A.J. Ellis. Took a baseball off the hand last night. Beautiful day in San Francisco. We'll have more right after this.
Perfect day here in San Francisco for some day baseball. Fans making their way into AT&T Park, and I guarantee you Dodger fans will feel a whole lot better if their team can salvage Game 3 and avoid the sweep at the hands of the San Francisco Giants. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside AT&T Park. I'm Alana Rizzo. Yasmani Grandal will be behind the plate today. He will be catching Mike Bolsinger in his Major League debut, but good news for backup catcher A.J. Ellis, who was hit on the fat part of the hand yesterday after the ball ricocheted off of his mask. X-rays yesterday were negative. A.J. Ellis giving me the update earlier today.
I feel good. It's no surprise, woke up a little bit sore and a little bit tender right where the ball hit me, but you know, no extra damage or extra pain. And the more loose I got it this morning, doing some stuff in the training room, the better it felt. So hopefully there's no lingering effects and this thing will clear up pretty quick.
And no lingering effects are a good thing. A.J. Ellis said he didn't feel any worse. Now, last year he missed 52 games when he was on the disabled list, partly because of a right sprained ankle and partly because of a left knee surgery, but doesn't look like anything is going to be necessary for any sort of DL stint. And, guys, Don Mattingly said that he is available to play today. If need be, he can also swing the bat, guys.
All right, well, Scott Van Slyke, also the emergency catcher. Thank you very much, Alana. And Nomar Garciaparra was once an emergency catcher on the U.S. Olympic team. Well, let's talk about the lineup.
I think we didn't need that emergency. Because I was an emergency
you
catcher.
were a high school
it was a
catcher?
yeah.
There at St. John Bosco.
Yeah.
Alex Guerrero getting a start. He's 7 for 16 this year, 3 home runs and 11 RBIs. Nice to see him get a chance to start. What do you guys hope to see from him?
Well, listen, I mean, this is his role. I mean, one, to come off the bench and pinch hit, and he's been doing that extremely well.
afternoon to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers at AT&T Park, McCovey Cove, rippling under the light breeze, and we're ready for Game 3, the final game of the three-game series. For the Giants, they are trying to sweep the Dodgers in a three-game series here for the first time since May 2013. Trying to dodge that bullet, Don Mattingly fields this lineup for the final game before moving on to San Diego. The Dodgers shape up with Justin Turner leading off at shortstop. A struggling Jimmy Rollins gets a deserved day off to kind of think things over. Yasiel Puig in right, Adrian Gonzalez at first. Howie Kendrick hits clean up at second base. Yasmani Grandal is the catcher. You know that A.J. Ellis struck on the hand twice last night. He says he wanted to play, that he was okay. I believe the Dodgers, however, are sending him home to get the hand x-ray. Carl Crawford is in left field. Alex Guerrero at third. One of last night's great moments when he pinch hit the home run against Bumgarner. And after Guerrero, Jock Peterson and Mike Bolsinger. Ryan Vogelsong out of North Carolina had a Tommy John surgery in 2001. A big fella. He's 6'4", about 215, and he will be 38 the end of July. Vogelsong's hard numbers: in 2011 he was 13-7. The next year 14-9, and then it started in 2013 4-6 with an earned run average almost 6. Last year 8-13, earned run average 4, and today he is 0-1, earned run average almost 11. So we'll see about Vogelsong, who usually pitches pretty well here, and Turner is promptly hit by the first pitch. So Justin Turner hit one, I believe, on the hip. We'd have to look at it to make sure, but we do know he was nailed. So Turner starts off, and as he strides into the pitch, he's locked in. It got him twice, I think, slightly on the elbow and then on that hip. So Turner goes to first base, and the batter now will be Yasiel Puig. Beautiful day. The temperature 60 degrees here at AT&T. We always have some kind of a breeze. It's right on the water, but as of right now, it is a very, very light breeze. Strong sunshine and some blue skies overhead. So Yasiel Puig checking in. Out of a stretch goes Vogelsong, looks over his left shoulder to see what Turner's up to. Puig, big swing and a miss. Last night, Puig had a base hit, a walk, flied to right, made the defensive catch, and he has a modest 6-game hitting streak. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez. By the way, we talked about A.J. Ellis being hit on the hand. He insisted that he could play today, so he's still in the dugout. Strike one pitch on the way is taken low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Yasiel Puig trying to get something started. And as usual, if you see Clayton Kershaw, shades or not, you're going to see A.J. Ellis alongside of him. 1 ball and 1 strike to Yasiel Puig. Out of a stretch goes Vogelsong. Veteran right-hander ready. Comes back to Puig, and that one's low and inside. In 2011 and 2012, Vogelsong was pretty effective against the Dodgers. He was 4-2, and his earned run average 1.8. In fact, in 2012, he beat Kershaw twice. So never mind the numbers that he has this year, he has been a good pitcher upon occasion, and especially here rather than on the road. The 2-1 pitch, and that's low, ball 3. For Vogelsong, he's replacing Jake Peavy, who's on the DL with a bad back. And another note about Vogelsong, he might not pick up the win, but the Giants have won 8 of his last 11 starts against the Dodgers, including 5 of the last 6. Vogelsong trying to snap a personal 5-game losing streak, and Puig hits one foul down the line, well back into the crowd. The crowd is always a story here. They now have a string, 335 consecutive sellouts. and there's no reason not to believe that they won't do it again today. And especially Giants-Dodgers. The Giants will leave here after the game. They'll spend the weekend in Colorado, the Dodgers in San Diego, and then we'll have another collision Monday night, probably Kershaw and Bumgarner. Hope you'll be out there with us. 3-2. There goes Turner, and another foul ball out of play. So it's still 3-2. By the way, in looking ahead for the moment, the Dodgers last year beat the Padres 12 times, lost to them 7. In Petco Park last year, the Dodgers won 5 of the 9. But of course, you would certainly agree it is a totally different Padre team the Dodgers will see when they go visiting. Vogelsong on a 3-2 count, hung on it right now. Turner was going, so we'll see if he goes again. Vogelsong is set. Turner goes, and Puig drives one to right. Going back on the ball is Maxwell on the track to make the catch in the shade of the right field wall, right at the 365 sign. So Puig, always a tough out, hit that thing right on the button. Let's take a look at the Giants defensively, and they're a good ball club with Belt and Panik, Crawford and McGee. The outfield, Aoki, Pagan, and Maxwell. Posey behind the plate, and Vogelsong on the mound. So 1 out, Turner at first. Adrian Gonzalez trying to shake himself a little bit. 0 for his last 9. His average at .434. Not that anybody thinks he's going to be around that number much longer. Vogelsong with the infield swung way around to first, and a bunt up along third, foul, and the count 0-1. So for Adrian Gonzalez, if you're going to give him that much territory, they have Crawford almost behind the bag at second. They have McGee in the hole at short. So why not? They give him all of third base and down the line, and Adrian trying to take advantage of it. No balls and 1 strike. Crawford, of course, fulfills a lot. He's near the bag, and he fills up the middle. Another swing and a foul, and the count 0-2 to Adrian Gonzalez. Gonzalez has been steady against all comers, and especially with Vogelsong hitting .294, going head-to-head with him. Adrian leading the majors in batting average, on base percentage, and slugging. Out of a stretch goes Vogelsong. The strike 2 pitch on the way, and that's a little low, but a check swing is strike 3. So Adrian tried to hold up on a pitch down and could not do it. So Gonzalez's strikeout. For those watching on television, we can see he tried so desperately to hold off on a borderline pitch, couldn't do it, and Manny Gonzalez rings him up. By the way, Manny Gonzalez, the plate umpire, is from Venezuela, the first Venezuelan to be a major league umpire. Breaking ball away on the corner to Kendrick for a strike, and the count 0. Manny, 3 years in the big leagues. 0-1 the count to Howie Kendrick, hitting .340 with a couple of home runs, 10 RBIs. Vogelsong turns, throws to first, diving back to the bag. Justin Turner, who was hit on the first pitch of the game. Zach Greinke will open up tomorrow night in San Diego against Andrew Cashner. Now the strike 1 pitch on the way. Vogelsong snaps off a fastball low and away. And a 1-ball, 1-strike count to Howie Kendrick. Kendrick 0 for 4 last night in his 10th year in the big leagues. Giants are in a stretch, 23 straight games against Western Division teams as Kendrick fouls it away. It'll stay that way today and with Colorado. When they come home, they will finally get out of the Western Division, and they'll play the Angels. That would be May 1, 2, and 3. Dodgers will be home with the Giants, and then they'll face Arizona. No score. We're just starting. 2 out, first inning. Turner at first, 1-2 the count to Kendrick, and Vogelsong off the rubber. A couple of years ago, Ryan Vogelsong was an all-star. Talk about Ryan Vogelsong. You could write a book as far as the ups and the downs, a lot of downs in his major league career. 1-2 pitch is off the plate. 2-2 the count. Of course, for Ryan Vogelsong, he is a determined man. One reason, his father has worked for the same shoe company for 47 years. So he's not about to walk away from baseball. Right-hander ready. The 2-2 pitch on the way. Kendrick a swing, and down he goes, and it wasn't much of a swing. So Gonzalez and Kendrick are both badly fooled. No runs, no hits, a hit batter, a man left. Aoki will be leading it off for the Giants as we head to the bottom of the first. No score. To score. Justin Turner hit by a pitch, but they leave him at first. 2 strikeouts for Vogelsong. Now let's take a look at Bruce Bochy's lineup, and it reads this way. Nori Aoki, the left fielder, will lead it off. Then Joe Panik at second, Angel Pagan in center, Buster Posey behind the plate. Brandon Belt at first, Justin Maxwell in right, Casey McGee returns to third, Brandon Crawford at short, and Ryan Vogelsong on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers and making his debut as a Dodger is Mike Bolsinger out of McKinney, Texas. 6'2" and 210. He'll be 29 years old. The right-hander made his major league start, his first against the Dodgers, and his first pitch in for a strike to Aoki. Bolsinger started at Dodger Stadium last April the 19th. He had a 4-0 lead for the Diamondbacks, and that vanished. Aoki swings, ground ball to the right side. Kendrick is on it, and just like that, 1 out in the first inning. Take a look at the Dodgers with the leather, and they shape up. Gonzalez and Kendrick, Turner and Guerrero, Crawford, Peterson, and Puig, Grandal behind the plate. So the left side of the infield, Rollins and Uribe taking time off. And Guerrero, last night's hero, with his pinch hit home run, his second of the year as a pinch hitter, and his third on the year. Bolsinger had that 4-0 lead a year ago, April 19th. His fastball to Panik for a strike. That 4-0 lead disappeared. Andre Ethier hit a 3-run home run, and then Mike gave up the lead. Dodgers scored 5 and chased him, and he got the loss. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Bolsinger over the top, and the fastball inside under the elbows. Joe Panik hit that long fly ball to center field last night. Sacrifice fly to drive in the run. Joe hitting .281. Matt Duffy played in his stead last evening. 1-1 pitch is fouled off, and the count 1-2. Vanek, a solid ball player, and over the last half a dozen games, he's had 10 hits, 3 RBIs, and a triple. And he's only struck out once over that stretch. Bolsinger looks down the barrel to get a sign. Panik waits. Now the next pitch is swung on, line to right. Puig is going to have to play it on a bounce. So Joe Panik, a clean single to right field. And the batter will be Angel Pagan, hit number 1 against Mike Bolsinger. So Pagan checking in with Buster Posey on deck. Angel hitting .311, a very consistent ball player, means so much to the Giants, offensively, defensively. All you have to do is realize he's hitting 3rd in the lineup, and you know how important he is. He takes a look at a fastball in for ball 1, 1-0 the count. Bolsinger, if he is on his game, will not walk a lot of people. His record, about 3 times as many strikeouts as walks. So he has a 1-out single from Panik. The next pitch swung on, fly ball to left. Coming up for it is Crawford to make the catch. So Pagan goes the other way for an out. And with 2 down, Buster Posey coming up. Giants have played 16 games so far this year. Their record is 6-10, and one reason Bruce Bochy knows is the fact that Buster Posey has not produced over that stretch. Posey so valuable, hitting just .250 and hitting in the 280s with runners in scoring position. So Posey waits. Bolsinger delivers. Fastball is high, ball 1. You remember Josh Colmenter with Arizona, the pitching machine? Bolsinger pitches a lot like him, directly over the top. That gets his back into it and takes the strain off the arm. 1 ball and no strikes. Posey with Panik at first, 2 down, first inning, no score. Mike delivers and is a high drive to dead center, but it looks playable. Peterson is there to one-hand it. And that's that. So in the first inning, no runs, 1 hit, a man left for the Giants. And at the end of an inning, it's the Giants nothing and the Dodgers nothing. No score, second inning. The Dodgers will have Grandal to lead it off, then Crawford and Guerrero against Ryan Vogelsong, who set the Dodgers down after making his first pitch that nailed Justin Turner on the hip. Yasmani Grandal hitting from the left side, switch hitter. And first pitch hit on the ground to the right side. Joe Panik is there to make the play easily. And just like that, one pitch and one out in the second inning. Few notes about Ryan Vogelsong as Carl Crawford checks in. Born in North Carolina, grew up as a shortstop, idolized Cal Ripken, always wore number 8. Well, number 8 is worn by Hunter Pence, who is normally the right fielder up here. So he wears another distinguished number, 32. And the first pitch to Crawford, low and away. 1 ball and no strikes. Ryan admired Cal Ripken so much that when he was in grade school, he saved some money. Crawford takes high. He bought one of those stand-up cardboard cutouts of Ripken at a local baseball card shop, and he still has it. In fact, during holidays, his wife Nicole will put a Santa hat or a plastic pumpkin on Ripken's head, and then Vogelsong will say, no, take that off. You have to respect Cal. 3-0 the count. So Vogelsong still has a lot of little boy in him. He's behind in the count, 3-0. And the right-hander gets a strike. 3-1. Carl Crawford, stomach upset, fighting a touch of the flu, hitting .242. Has hit safely 6 of the last 7 against the Giants. And the 3-1 pitch on the way, swung on, high fly ball to deep left field. Aoki to the track, right at the wall to make the catch for the out. What breeze we have is actually blowing out to right, and it's not much. So Crawford, a long out to left field. Aoki had plenty of room. It's 382 in the power alleys, 339 down the line. So a good stretch out there, and Aoki very calmly leaning up against the pads and made the catch. 2 down, and here is Alex Guerrero. What a story. 3 home runs already. 2 of them coming off the bench, hitting .438. Vogelsong delivers, fastball strike. Guerrero tied for 10th in the National League in RBIs, 5 shy of Paul Goldschmidt, who was 16. All the others in the top 10 have at least 49 at-bats, and up to 64. Guerrero, with his big numbers, only has 16 at-bats. One of them last night, he got a fastball up 92 miles an hour and crushed it in the pavilion in left field against Madison Bumgarner. That was the last pitch that Bumgarner made. The Dodgers and Guerrero had tied it up. However, they still lost 3-2. So 2 pitches off the plate. This year for Guerrero, when he is batting with nobody on base, he's 0 for 5. With runners on base, he is 7 for 11. And there is no one on base. Alex waits. The boy from Cuba with a 1-2 count takes way off the plate. As a pinch hitter, he is 3 for 6 with 2 home runs. All of the other Dodger pinch hitters are 0 for 15. So Alex waiting, right-hand batter, bends at the knees and waist. Vogelsong looks down to get a sign from Posey. The outfield fanned out straight away. We're in the second inning, no score. Beautiful day here in San Francisco. Vogelsong now ready, just rocks and turns. 2-2 pitch, swung on, high drive into left center. On his horse is Pagan, and would you believe it's over the wall? Alex Guerrero, who hit one halfway up the pavilion last night, clears the center field wall, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. The kid from Cuba. Wow. So just to fill it in again, Guerrero, who's been dynamite with runners on base, now hits a home run with nobody on, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. Kind of a sheepish grin on his face, as if to say, I can't explain it. And the Dodgers coming over to have some fun with him. 1-0 Dodgers with 2 out here in the 3rd inning. So Guerrero does it again. Jock Peterson up there now, the left-hand hitting center fielder. Guerrero still laughing. Half the club over to have some fun with him. Peterson takes low. 1 ball and no strikes. Take another look. The ball just seemed to hang out over the plate. That was not the Bumgarner fastball, and he hit it over the crease in center field and down the exit way. The 1-0 pitch on the way, off speed, ball 2, 2-0. Guerrero showing muscle to straightaway center. It's 399 to center. 2 balls and no strikes to count. The next pitch to Peterson, off speed, drops in nicely for a strike. 2-1 the count. Vogelsong with a fastball, curve, and a cutter. He started throwing a splitter way back in 2005, and he's already thrown a couple here. 2-1 fastball is a shot up the middle for a base hit. So with 2 out, Guerrero homers, Peterson singles, and the batter will be the pitcher, Mike Bolsinger. 1-0 Dodgers, trying to avoid the sweep. Remember, the Giants haven't swept the Dodgers in a 3-game series up here since May of 2013. Dodgers leading San Diego. Of course, it's so early, but yet you'd like to know just where the teams are. Dodgers leading San Diego by about 18 percentage points. Bolsinger takes a strike, and the count 0-1. On deck, the leadoff man, Justin Turner. 1 run in, the home run by Alex Guerrero. The strike 1 pitch to Bolsinger. He has a look, and that's low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Giants having snapped a bad stretch where they lost 9 out of 10, 8 in a row. Bochy has his club now 6-10, 4 back. Chopper up the middle. Crawford backs up for the hop, feeding his second baseman Panic very close. So Peterson hustling, but he is forced. Vogelsong gives up the home run and the single, and the home run is worth looking at again as Pagan went as far as he could go, and Guerrero meanwhile never stopped running. And at the end of an inning and a half, it's 1-0 Dodgers. The first 15,000 children 14 and under in attendance. When you come to Dodger Stadium May 3rd, you'll get a kid's Yasiel Puig replica jersey presented by Rice Krispies Treats. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Brandon Belt takes ball 1, and the Dodgers load up the right side of the infield, standing all alone, and right now that's a perfect spot for him. Standing alone and above the crowd, Alex Guerrero all alone on the left side. Belt takes a strike, and the count 1-1 strike. 1-0 Dodgers, second inning. Brandon hitting just 167, off to a slow start, but he's a far better hitter than that. He promptly pulls one on the ground. Fair ball, backhanded by Adrian, feeding Bolsinger coming over. And we have 1 out here in the second inning. Bolsinger now getting ready to face Justin Maxwell, who's having a terrific time in right field. Maxwell last night hit the ball very hard, went 0 for 3, but he was hit by a pitch, and that set up the winning run in the bottom of the 9th inning. Doing very well, hitting .280, filling in for Hunter Pence, who suffered a broken arm hit by a pitch in spring training. Maxwell, right-hand batter, slices one foul off to the right, out of play, and the count 0-1. Maxwell has power. He hit 18 home runs for Houston, and in the first game of the series, he crushed one over the barrier down the line at 339, and it went out into the night. The strike 1 pitch is low. They estimated the home run at about 430. It could have been even more than that. So Maxwell, he's the boy who graduated from high school with a 4.0 grade point average and was accepted to Harvard University. Swings, hits a ground ball, base hit into left field. However, he opted to go to the University of Maryland because they had a much better baseball program. And as he said, I wanted to be a baseball player, and I felt the best way to get there was to go to Maryland, not Harvard. So that's hit number 2 of Mike Bolsinger, and Casey McGee coming up. We were talking last night about Angel Pagan, who has a daughter who has an eye problem. She can't focus both eyes on an object. Casey McGee carries a great cross. Right-hand veteran takes a look at ball 1. He has 2 children and a son, Mikhail. They call him Mac. Mac was born premature, and he had a rare life-threatening condition. He had cerebral palsy at 15 months. He's been wearing leg braces ever since. And whenever and wherever McGee goes, the first thought is therapy for young Mac. And that might sound relatively easy, except when he would leave the country. And, of course, he played in Japan. So it's a tough burden to carry. McGee back up, struggling with the bat and trying to replace a big favorite up here, Pablo Sandoval. McGee hitting 171. He has 1 home run, 2 runs batted in. Veteran waiting, had a couple of big years in the past. Dodgers trying to get by with him. Ground ball to short. The quick feed, they'll get 1 over to first. Double play. So McGee struggling, and the struggle continues. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. And at the end of 2, the Dodgers lead the Giants 1-0. The third inning, Dodgers lead 1-0. Justin Turner, Yasiel Puig, and then Adrian Gonzalez. Justin Turner playing shortstop today. All we have to do is give you some numbers. In the last 6 games, Rollins has walked 7 times. However, Jimmy is just 2 for 22 with 10 strikeouts. So Turner is in there, takes an off-speed pitch for a strike, and they count 0-1. Turner hit on the hips on the very first pitch of the game. It'll be Greinke and Cashner tomorrow night in San Diego, and then Brandon McCarthy will pitch game 2. Meanwhile, Turner drives one slicing to right center, and Pagan is there to pick it off. So Turner and out to center, 1 down, and Yasiel Puig coming up. Yasiel with a modest 6-game hitting streak. Puig with a couple of home runs, 4 runs batted in. Puig in last night's game batted 3rd and had 1 hit and a walk. In the first game of the series, he batted 2nd, and he had 2 singles to go 2 for 4. 0 for 1 today. Vogelsong sneaks a fastball in there at the knees, outside part of the plate. Puig doesn't say anything, just nods his head as if to say good call to the umpire. 1-0 Dodgers in the 3rd. Vogelsong comes back off speed, a one-hopper, a lot of English on it. Panik makes the play. That ball was spinning like a top, and Panik started to back up, and then all of a sudden he had to move a little to his left. So that was right out of a pool hall. Starting to his right, backing up and going to his left. Panik stays with it. He doesn't panic, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez struggling a little bit after a nice play by Panik. Adrian struck out in the first inning. He is 0 for his last 10 at-bats, and his average has taken a beating after a great start. And he takes low, ball 1. They have the modified shift on now. Crawford, the shortstop, stays on that side of the bag, but Panik a good 15 to 20 feet out into right field. And the outfield just about straight away. Adrian takes low. 2 balls and no strikes. With the third baseman McGee playing shortstop, and now Crawford moves all the way over. You can understand why Adrian tried to bunt at one of the pitchers first time up. The 2-0 pitch on the way, swung on, and a high drive to center. Pagan going back at the track, at the wall, hits the wall and goes out. And just like that, the Dodgers lead 2-0. Shift or no, Adrian clears the center field fence. So the Dodgers on home run by Guerrero and Gonzalez lead 2-0. So that one, 399 at the base of the wall, and it hit the top of the wall and kicked out. So the Dodgers getting the maximum out of the minimum. 2 swings, good for 2 runs, and they lead 2-0. So Gonzalez drives it out. And the batter now will be Howie Kendrick. Vogelsong's fastball low and away, ball 1. Gonzalez now has 6 home runs, 15 runs batted in, and gives the Dodgers 2-0 lead. Vogelsong comes right back, 1-0. Change way out in front of it is Kendrick, who struck out in the first inning. Adrian Gonzalez, one thing about him, he has not been much of a pinch hitter. We all know he's a great day in and day out player. As a pinch hitter, Adrian is only 5 for 24. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way, and that's low. 2-1 the count to Howie Kendrick. So Guerrero homers in the second inning. Gonzalez homers in the third, and the Dodgers lead 2-0. Because it could be worse for Vogelsong, but the bases were empty. 2-1 pitch, fastball down and away. 3-1 the count. Vogelsong was originally drafted by the Giants in 1998. Actually made his debut in the year 2000, and then he was traded away to Pittsburgh, but he's from Pennsylvania. 3-1 pitch is low, ball 4. So Kendrick draws the walk, and the batter will be Yasmani Grandal. So a very chipper Gonzalez, having been 0 for 10, hits a 2-0 pitch over the center field wall, and life is good again. Of course, as many years as Adrian has played, he could write a book about ups and downs. So Kendrick at first with 2 out. Yasmani Grandal hit the first pitch, grounded out in the second inning. Vogelsong delivers, and it's a strike, 0-1. Yasmani, a switch hitter, has reached base safely 8 of the last 9 games. In fact, he had a string of reaching going back to last year of around 20. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Grandal looks, and that's going to cost another strike, and the count 0-2. Yasmani back up to the plate. Looks like he's had a haircut since we've been in San Francisco. 0-2. Throw to first, diving back to the bag, Howie Kendrick. Ryan Vogelsong eventually went to the minor leagues to Nashville. Best thing about that, he met his wife there. Then he came back up to play for Pittsburgh, and he bought a house near his old neighborhood. Grandal, with the runner going, fouls it back in fastball alley. So Kendrick goes back to first. 0-2 the count to Grandal. And we have 2 out. Top of the 3rd inning, and the Dodgers on home runs. Lead 2-0. By the way, talking about home runs, the Dodgers now have hit 20. And waiting on deck, Kyle Crawford. Vogelsong ready once again. 0-2. Runner does not go, and it's foul back. Dodgers trying to leave here with a victory. That'll take the sting out of losing the first 2. Especially the air came out of the balloon coming up here with a 7-game win streak, only to drop 2 in a row and come back to earth. 0-2, and that's high up around the eyes. 1-2 to Grandal. Vogelsong had Tommy John surgery back in 2003, though he missed a year or so healing. Then in 2007, he went to Japan and played for the Hanshin Tigers. There's one problem if you are a former big leaguer and you go to Japan. The feeling is you don't come back. You don't come back to the big leagues. You either stay in Japan, or you wind up in the minor leagues, or you wind up at the end of your career. But every once in a while, the Vogelsongs would watch a major league telecast in Japan, and they'd see a guy who had played in Japan. The pitch inside, and although that's a small thing, the wife kept saying, Nicole kept saying to Ryan, you see, babe, you can come back. You can do it. You can leave Japan. And sure enough, he did it. He signed a minor league contract with the Phillies in 2009. But that was his first step to come back from Japan. Pitch is reached for a ground ball. Crawford goes across the bag to make the play. So Grandal grounds out, but Gonzalez aired one out, clearing the center field fence, hitting the actual top of the fence, 399 feet away. Pagan tried, couldn't snare it, and at the end of 2.5 innings, the Dodgers lead 2-0. G-men, and they're on a case. Guerrero and Gonzalez each with a home run. Dodgers lead 2-0, and we go to the bottom of the third inning. Brandon Crawford, the shortstop, then Ryan Vogelsong and Nori Aoki in that order. And the first pitch under the elbows inside, ball one to Brandon. Crawford hitting .216, but in the series he has an RBI, scored twice, and he's 2 for 6. The pride of UCLA takes a strike. He was the MVP of the Bruins baseball team both in 2006 and 2007. 1-1 pitch on the way. Swung on, hit slowly to short, having to come back to get it is Turner, and throws it away. Holding at first base is Crawford. He did not make any turn. So with Brandon Crawford, a left-handed batter, Turner was shifted way over to his left. So he had to go back, and of course for a fellow who doesn't play, suddenly asked to play a very tough position. You can understand the wild throw. We'll see if it's 1-1 or just an error all the way. And it looks like E6 all the way. So Crawford is aboard. Now Vogelsong coming up in what would appear to be a bunt situation. Talking about a bunt situation, that was a tremendous at-bat last night by Madison Bumgarner against Clayton Kershaw. Vogelsong takes above the letters. 1 ball and no strikes. Bumgarner in the third inning came up, battled after a full swing foul right into the Giant dugout. He battled Kershaw, 2 balls, 2 strikes, and even with 2 strikes, he got the bunt down, and it meant a 2-run inning. The pitch is low, and so Bolsinger is behind. 2-0 to Ryan Vogelsong. He checks at third with Roberto Kelly to see if the bunt is still on. Dodgers believe it is. Guerrero's in on the grass. Gonzalez is not on the bag. He's about 5 feet in front of the bag, charging the plate, and the bunt goes over the backstop screen. 2 balls and 1 strike. Now Bochy going through it all again. Kelly relays it along to Vogelsong. And Brandon Crawford is being advised by first base coach Bill Hayes. Something you don't think about, but it is a very tough test for a third base coach to remember all the signs. 2-1 pitch. There goes the runner. Full swing and a miss. Throw down to second, and Crawford is out from me to you. What a great throw by Yasmani Grandal. So they took the bunt off. They ran Crawford. Vogelsong comes up empty, and Crawford pays the price. Great throw by Grandal. Dead on the money. Turner able to just wait for Crawford. So 1 out. 2-2 the count now to Ryan Vogelsong. Kind of an awkward slide by Crawford. Breaking ball got him looking. So down goes Vogelsong. That will be the first strikeout for Mike Bollinger. Remember, in 11 innings at Oklahoma City, he struck out 17. In the parlance of the track, he has thrown a shoe. So timeout for the moment. Well, Mike's all right now. That'll bring Aoki, who grounded out. Last year, of course, it might have been lost in the Giant hysterics, but when Aoki was playing for Kansas City in the month of September, he hit .379. He takes a strike. And certainly over in the American League, in the Central Division, the White Sox are thrilled that Aoki is out of sight. All he did against the White Sox last year was about .492. The pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-2. Aoki 5'8", a tough out, good hitter. No balls and 2 strikes to Nori. Bolsinger ready into the windup, over the top, and a little chopper foul off the plate. And the count remains no balls and 2 strikes. We told the story last night, in case you missed it, When his second child was born, he wanted the child to have an American name, and he was playing for Milwaukee. So he was a friend of a great guy, Bob Uecker, who broadcast the Milwaukee games. Strike 2 pitch to Norrie is taken in the dirt. So Aoki asked Uecker, I need an American name for my son. So Uecker gave it some serious thought and said, name him Aaron, after Tommy Aaron and Henry Aaron and all of the Aarons in this world. So Aaron is the name of Aoki's boy. The 1-2 pitch on the way is taken just inside. Aoki at 5'8", so you don't have a great strike zone. He has somewhat of an open stance, but then he'll stride in right on top of the plate. Open now and waiting, and here he comes 2-2 and fouls it off. Mike Bolsinger, a very important start. Hard to say important in the month of April, but the Dodgers know it's important because, among other things, with Bolsinger pitching today, it gives Greinke a chance to have a day off. And the Dodgers hope he'll be stronger going against the Padres tomorrow night. The next pitch is swung on and missed, and down goes Aoki. 2 strikeouts for Bolsinger in the 3rd inning. And at the end of 3, it's the Dodgers 2 and the Giants nothing. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the 2015 Jeep Cherokee. With an EPA estimated 31 highway MPG, it's the perfect choice. Visit Jeep.com today. We move along to the 4th inning with the Dodgers leading 2-0. Home runs by Guerrero and Gonzalez. It's Ryan Vogelsong and Mike Bolsinger. Carl Crawford flied to left field in the 2nd inning. Leading off, ground ball to the right side. On it is Panic. 1 away. So that didn't take very long, and here comes Guerrero. Guerrero coming up with 2 out and bases empty in the 2nd inning. Got a fastball and hit it over the center field wall. Pagan hoping that it would hit the wall. So Alex has 4 home runs, 2 of them as a pinch hitter. Hitting .471 with 12 runs batted in. Takes the first pitch for ball 1. So we're talking about those impressive numbers, and he's had 17 at bats. Off speed. Hit foul down the line. It's 309 down the right field line and 339 down the left field line. It's a big outfield. 382 to left center, 365 to right center, and 421 the deepest part of the park. And Guerrero fouls it off. And the count 1-2. Breeze has picked up. And it's blowing from right to left. Just like any good ball player, the first thing you do when you come into the ballpark, check the flags. It's a little low. 2 balls and 2 strikes, 1 out in the 4th. Dodgers lead 2-0. Giants go to Denver. Dodgers go to San Diego. On the hand, squirted. Belt way off. Will underhand it to Bolsinger coming over. And Vogelsong makes the play. So 3-1 if you're scoring. 2 down here in the 4th. And the batter, Jock Peterson, who singled in the 2nd inning. Peterson 1 for 1, hitting .310. He had a fly ball for an out last night as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning. I mean, he just missed hitting it into McCovey Cove. Vogelsong ready. First pitch off the plate. Ball 1. Buster Posey behind the plate. He was so dedicated. He had been, remember, an All-American shortstop, and they converted him to catcher. And as a young potential catcher, when he was not playing, he would spend his time watching television. Oh, nothing new in that, except he would watch television in a catcher's crouch to get his legs ready for a career at that position. Buster Posey, a very dedicated young man. He means everything to the Giants. 2-1. Three and 1. Considering hitting 8th in the lineup, and Jock has some power. He's up there hitting 2-2 the count. Still 2-2. Against Bumgarner, the Dodgers were looking at a lot of 94-mile-an-hour fastballs. Not this afternoon. Vogelsong, a lot of off-speed pitches. He's topped out at, I think, 88. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Off speed, lifted into shallow center. Panic going out. Pagan coming in. It's panic. So the Dodgers go 1-2-3 in the 4th inning. And at the end of 3.5, it remains Dodgers 2, Giants nothing. fourth inning. You know, tonight we'll go behind the scenes. Dodgers host the 2015 Civil Rights game in honor of Dodger legend Jackie Robinson. So don't miss Backstage Dodgers tonight at 7 on Sportsnet LA. Joe Panik, then Pagan, and then Posey. The P-men coming up against Mike Bolsinger. Panik single to right field in the first inning and a strike. 0-1 to Joe. The pride of St. John's University back in New York. From Hopewell Junction, somewhere near Yonkers. 0-2 the count. Panik, 24 years old, has already distinguished himself in the World Series. He figures to have a long career. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Mike Bolsinger, when you talk to him, you'll hear about his mom. His mom would go to the ballpark, but she wouldn't watch him pitch. He would be too nervous. When he played against the Mets, his mom was able to watch it on TV, but she would go in the garage. Panik strikes out, 1 away. Finally, he was pitching for Arizona at Dodger Stadium, and his mom got there. What did she do? She spent the whole game walking around on the club level. Just couldn't watch the game. But finally, Bolsinger pitched in Chicago against the Cubs. His father grew up near Wrigley Field. So when Bolsinger took the mound against the Cubs, there were about 40 relatives in the stands. Ball 1 to Pagan. His mom said, "You've never seen anything like 30 or 40 people who are die-hard Cubs fans rooting for the Diamondbacks because of Mike." Off speed in there. 1-1. Pagan flied to left, 0 for 1. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers, 2 home runs. No runs, 2 hits for the Giants. Fastball in there. Fastball at 89. Bolsinger 6'2", 210. He's only 27. Angel Pagan hitting in the number 3 slot, covering a lot of ground in center field. Pagan was originally with the Mets. Checked. We're not sure if that was a foul. No foul. We were looking to see Manny Gonzalez give a foul tip sign. 3-2 the count. Pagan from a tough section in Puerto Rico, drug and gang ridden as well. It's called Rio Piedras in Puerto Rico. 3-2. Roller wide of first. Gonzalez has to underhand. Bolsinger is there. 2 down. Buster Posey coming up. He flied to center in the first inning. Buster 0 for 1. Bolsinger getting people out with a fastball, slider. He has a cutter and a curveball, and he'll throw in the changeup as well. And a strike. No balls and 1 strike to Buster. In the dirt, new ball put in play. 1-1 the count. Giants have a first inning single by Panic, a second inning single by Maxwell, and McGee followed by grounding into a double play. There's one into right field for the base hit. So Bolsinger got the ball up, banged into right, and that'll bring up Brandon Belt. So Belt checking in with Posey at first, 2 down, and the Dodgers leading 2-0. Dodgers load up the right side. You don't usually see them do that with a base runner. And that'll be ball 1 to Belt. But despite the fact you have Posey at first, the Dodgers still stack up the right. And ball 2, 2-0. Mike Bolsinger trying to nurse a 2-0 lead. Brandon Belt, power hitter, waiting at the plate. Off speed for a strike. Brandon Belt had a rather historic home run. Top of the 18th inning at Washington, and he homered for the victory in Game 2 of the division series. Only 2 other times in Giant history did a Giant hit an extra inning home run in the postseason. 2-2. The others, well, Dusty Rhodes in the 1954 World Series. Dusty beat Bob Lemon of the Cleveland Indians. And in the 1933 World Series, Mel Ott hit the clincher. 2-2 to Brandon Belt. And a high fly ball to left field, but looks playable. Crawford will handle it right at the edge of the grab. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And at the end of 4, it remains 2-0 Dodgers.
On his quest.
We move along into the 5th inning with the Dodgers holding on to a 2-0 lead because of those 2 home runs and the pitching of Mike Bolsinger. Ryan Vogelsong will be pitching to Bolsinger, then Turner and Puig. Bolsinger hit into a force play in the 2nd inning. Strike, 0-1. Final game of the 3-game series, game 3 of the 19 meetings scheduled between these two clubs. And remember, a 3-game series starting Monday at Dodger Stadium, and a repeat for the West Coast. It figures to be Clayton Kershaw and Madison Bumgarner Monday night. 0-2. Half swing, badly fooled, down he goes. You know, friends, you have until midnight tonight to purchase any reserve level ticket for only $22 for the Dodgers and Giants Wednesday at 7:10. And the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive a Clayton Kershaw fleece blanket presented by Security Benefit. So buy now because availability is limited. To purchase, visit Dodgers.com/22. 3 strikeouts for Ryan Vogelsong. That's a strike to Turner. Hit by a pitch, fly to center. Justin 0 for 1. Playing shortstop today. Turner started last night's game at first base. Bad ball, 0-2. So in the series, to show you how valuable Turner is, in game 1 he finished up at third base for Uribe. Last night he started at first base for Gonzalez, and today he's playing shortstop and caught looking to strike 3. So Turner is called out, 2 down here in the 5th inning. 4 strikeouts for Vogelsong. And the batter, Yasiel Puig. Puig flied to right, grounded out. Little 6-game hitting streak. Dodgers lead 2-0. We're in the 5th. Fastball hit in the air, back to first, down the line. Coming over is Maxwell, right at the boxes, no play. 0-1 to count to Yasiel Puig. Home runs today. Alex Guerrero has done it again. Playing third base, came up with 2 out in the 2nd inning and hit 1 out. And then with 2 out in the 3rd inning, Adrian Gonzalez cleared the center field wall. Breeze has picked up now, blowing from right to left hard as it did game 1. Proof positive. No balls and 1 strike. Fastball in there. That's as hard as Vogelsong has thrown. I believe that's the first time he's hit 90 miles an hour on the gun. Little ground ball, a chipped bat, and Crawford makes the play. There's a little sliver of wood on the grass between the mound and home plate. Down goes Puig, down go the Dodgers. 7 in a row retired by Vogelsong, but it's still 2-0 Dodgers. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Jack's hottest sandwich is back. Head to Jack in the Box for Jack's Blazing Chicken Sandwich. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Choose Nissan.com. Bottom of the fifth inning, 2-0 Dodgers. And Justin Maxwell takes high, ball one, 1-0. The interesting thing about Justin Maxwell has to do with his parents. Takes in the dirt. Both of his parents are retired dentists, but they are not only retired dentists, they were the dentists to both President George W. Bush and President Bill Clinton. That meant that Justin, as a child, attended a lot of events at the White House and even Camp David. Bolsinger, suddenly behind 3-0, had not walked anybody, but he's right on the edge. McGee on deck. That's in there. 3-1. So Mike Bolsinger, 27-year-old out of McKinney, Texas, went to school at the University of Arkansas. Slow breaking ball is a strike. Maxwell thought it was outside. 3-2. Big breaking ball. He thought sure ball 4. Manny Gonzalez said no. 3-2. And a breaking ball uppercutted, pop fly back at third. Guerrero with Turner behind him, and it's Turner making the catch. So Maxwell fouls out to Turner, and the batter now will be McGee. Down in the bullpen, Yusmeiro Petit begins to warm up. There was some talk before this game came around that the starting pitcher would either be Vogelsong or Petit. And Bruce Bochy said, no, I like Petit to be my long reliever. So he started Vogelsong. 0-1 the count to McGee. Casey from Santa Cruz, but he lives in Tennessee. That's a strike. If you go back to 2010 with the Brewers, McGee had 23 home runs, 104 runs batted in, and hit a very solid .285. 0-2. Check for ball 1. Then last year with the Marlins, he hit .287. The year before, 2013, he was in Japan, and he hit 28 home runs. Badly fooled, down he goes. And so Casey McGee going through a really rough time, especially replacing a big favorite up here. Pressing, no doubt, trying desperately to do something good, and instead strikes out. So 2 out, 5th inning, and here's Brandon Crawford. Crawford reached on the error by Justin Turner and then was thrown out trying to steal. Fastball below the knees, 1 ball and no strikes. Crawford grew up in Pleasanton, although he lived in Menlo Park for a couple of years. Good athlete. He was quarterback, safety on the football team. That's in there. 1-1. Andrew Susac comes out on deck. He would hit for Vogelsong. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-1. Bolsinger has struck out 4. He has not walked a batter. And that was to be a breaking ball, but it floated high. 3-1 to count. Vogelsong has now come out on deck. Susac has gone back to the dugout. Breaking ball is inside for ball 4. Now let's see. Vogelsong looks to Bochy as if say, do I or don't I? And they say, no, go up and hit with 2 out. So the first walk given up by Mike Bolsinger. He struck out 4. Vogelsong struck out in the 3rd inning. So immediately Petit stops throwing in the bullpen. 2-0 Dodgers, bottom of the 5th, and that's ball 1. .68 pitches made so far by Bolsinger. Ground ball slowly to Kendrick. And that'll be that. So Vogelsong taps out. No runs, no hits, a man left. And at the end of 5, it's still Dodgers 2, Giants nothing. Memorable Dodgers. First of all, Gil Hodges hit a home run against the Cubs. That would be number 300 in his career. And the shortstop, known as the captain, Pee Wee Reese, played in his 2000th game. It was a losing effort against the Cubs, but it was still a day to remember. Let's go back to this one. And this one is a dandy. Dodgers 2 runs, 3 hits. 2 of the 3 hits home runs. Alex Guerrero and Adrian Gonzalez. It'll be Gonzalez, Kendrick, and Grandal as the Dodgers stack up in the 6th against Ryan Vogelsong. Adrian was 0 for 10. He had struck out in the 1st inning, and then he cleared the center field wall for his 6th home run. Again, that checkerboard shift with Gonzalez. They have panic way out in right field, but they couldn't defend against this swing. Pagan tried, but it's going to hit the top of the wall and kick on out. Much to the disgust of Ryan Vogelsong. Little roller foul. So Gonzalez in a jam, 0-2. Once again, you have McGee in the hole at short. You have Crawford almost behind the bag at second, not quite. You have Panic in right field and Belt deep at first. The outfield fanned out about straight away. And amazingly so, Aoki very deep in left field, maybe because of the wind. No balls, 2 strikes. 1-2. Adrian hitting .436. half a dozen home runs, 15 runs batted in. 2-2. Vogelsong allowed to stay in and bat following the 2-out walk to Crawford. That was a big decision by Bochy. He had Susac in the on-deck circle and then called him back. 2-2. Change, and that's popped up on the left side. McGee in fair ground, and just like that, one away. So the batter will be Howie Kendrick. Kendrick struck out in the first inning and walked in the third. Each pitcher has struck out 4. Molsinger has walked 1. Vogelsong has walked 1 and hit a batter. There's a hopper. Up with it nicely is McGee. 2 down. So it shows you where last night we were talking 94, 93 with Bumgarner and Kershaw. Now you have 2 pitchers, one a veteran, one somewhat of a rookie, basically throwing in the 80s, throwing strikes. Vogelsong has made 80 pitches, 69 so far, made by Bolsinger. Fastball. Grandal grounded to second, grounded to short, 0 for 2. Made a great throw in the third inning to nail Brandon Crawford, who was trying to steal. Slow breaking ball, beautiful pitch in there for a strike. Giants have the top of the order in the bottom half. Aoki, Panik, and Pagan. And if anybody gets on, Posey. 0-2. Foul back. That was 89. I don't think we've only had one fastball from Vogelsong, I believe, that reached 90. 0-2. Big lesson to be learned in watching this kind of a game. A waste fastball at 88. 1-2 the count. He has Monty Grandal. And down he goes. That's 5 strikeouts for Ryan Vogelsong. And the last 3, 6, 9, 10 in a row since he walked Kendrick. And at the end of 5½, it's still 2-0 Dodgers. This season, we're celebrating with a Cy Young Pin Collector Series presented by 76. And you can pick up pin number 2 featuring Don Drysdale Monday, the Dodgers and Giants, and probably Kershaw versus Bumgarner. So be sure to visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Bolsinger has just not faced more than 4 batters in an inning. He's made 69 pitches. Here's number 70, and it's a chopper to Turner. And Justin makes the play. Aoki goes 0 for 3. So let's face it, this is somewhat of a surprise. I mean, last night going into the game, everybody talked pitching. Oh, yeah, Kershaw, Bumgarner, going to be a low-scoring game, and it was 2-2. But today, people thought, well, Vogelsong and Bolsinger, this is going to be a wide-open shooting gallery, and instead, it's a terrific pitching duel. Off-speed, ball 1 to Panik. Panik single to right, struck out, 1 for 2. Bolsinger has 4 strikeouts. Vogelsong has 5. Vogelsong has walked a batter and hit a batter. Bolsinger has walked 1. However, Vogelsong is on a roll. He's retired the last 10 in a row. Three balls and no strikes. Crawford walked with 2 out in the 5th inning. That was the only walk Mike's given up. And he's low for ball 4. So Panik draws the second walk, and that'll bring up Pagan. Flied to left and grounded to first. We mentioned at the very start that Vogelsong pitches well here. His earned run average is 3 at home, 5 on the road. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Chris Hatcher takes the walk. Bolsinger now giving up the walk. He's made 74 pitches. That's in there for a strike. Well, Mike has done very, very well. Through 5 innings, he is not allowed a man to second base. Only 1 inning, 18, where he made the pitches in the 4th. But he's been throwing strikes. A line drive, base hit into right center. The ball dying on the grass. Puig is over to pick it up, ready to pull the trigger, and Panik holds. So for the first time now, the Giants have 2 men on base. The walk to Panik, the single by Pagan, and here comes Buster Posey. So Hatcher has made just 1 pitch in the bullpen. It's going to take him a little while to get ready. Posey flied to center and single to right. 2 on, 1 out, 6th inning. Dodgers lead 2-0, and the Giants trying to get off the floor. Posey, as usual, rising to the occasion. 4 for 10 in the series. And first pitch a little high. Fastball just above the letters. 1 ball and no strikes. Two on, 1 out. 2-0 Dodgers. High bouncer, foul. Last year, Buster Posey not only established himself as quite a hitter, he was a very, very good low ball hitter. Won the batting championship in 2012. This year, however, he's had some trouble with the pitch down. That is trouble in the first 16 games or so. Fouled away. 1-2 the count to Buster. So in the inning, Aoki grounded to short. Panik walked on 4 pitches. Pagan singled. So for Bolsinger, this is the first rally he's really had to meet head on. 2 on, 1 out, 2-0 Dodgers, bottom of the 6th. And got him on the inside corner, coming right over the top. A big pitch, and we have 2 out. Just zam that thing in there. Fastball, slider, curveball, and cutter, and he went to the fastball. So with 2 out, Brandon Belt. Rick Honeycutt delighted reaction on that pitch, especially for Posey to take it. So now Belt grounded to first and flied to left. Kendrick plays him out on the grass. Gonzalez guarding the foul line. Turner way over to his left behind the runner, and there's a base hit to center. So here comes Panik. The throw from Peterson goes to the shortstop. The Giants are on the board, and the Dodger lead is 2-1. So the walk cashed in here in the 6th inning, and that might be enough for Bolsinger. He's still leading 2 on, 2 out. Justin Maxwell will be the batter, and Mattingly heading for the mound. So we'll just wait. They're going to bring in Hatcher. So that'll do it for Mike Bolsinger, and we'll be right back. Getting a little confidence from J.P. Howell. Mike went 5 2/3 innings, and the walk with 1 out was cashed in. So now it's up to Chris Hatcher to save Mike's bacon. Maxwell has singled to left and fouled out to short, and Hatcher in his 8th game. Hatcher came in the 8th inning last night, faced Susac, and struck him out. So now he faces Maxwell. 2 on. Fastball in the dirt. Gets away, but not far enough. The runners are not sure. The throw down to first is bobbled and not caught by Gonzalez. When that ball squirted away, both runners started off. Grandal had a slight chance of maybe getting Belt, but couldn't quite do it. So Hatcher trying to get a little something extra, maybe the adrenaline. Squirts away, the runner's hole, and then Grandal takes a shot at first. Runners at first and second. 2 out, 2-1 Dodgers. Pagan runs very well, carrying the tying run at second base. 1 run, 5 hits for the Giants. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. One and one. Maxwell with runners in scoring position, 2 for 7 with a home run, 3 RBIs. Hatcher trying to shut him down here with Pagan at second, Belt at first. Bolsinger's strikeout of Posey was a big pitch here in the 6th. 1 ball and 1 strike. One and one to Justin Maxwell. Chases a sinker. 1 and 2. Watch the bottom drop out of this thing. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The pitcher spot for the Dodgers, Hatcher, would be due up 4th in the 7th inning. Try another sinker in the dirt. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Paco Rodriguez gets up. By the way, Adam Libator has been sent down to make room for Bolsinger. So the Dodgers at once had the luxury of 3 left-handers in the pen. They're back to 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Grandal out on the mound to talk to Hatcher. Casey McGee on deck. So Pagan the tying run at second, Belt at first. Deuce is wild here. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on deck McGee. In the dugout, Bolsinger. And the sinker by Hatcher strikes out Maxwell. So the Giants get 1 run, 2 hits and a walk, lead 2. Bolsinger still has a shot at a victory. And at the end of 6, 2-1 Dodgers. Quarter of 1. Dodgers a little hungry at the moment, leading 2-1. And the crab sandwiches ready for this sellout crowd as we move on to the 7th inning. Crawford, Guerrero, and Peterson against the veteran left-hander Jeremy Affeldt. There's a story about Affeldt that is certainly worth repeating. Has nothing really to do with baseball except his mood at the time. Very sensitive, very religious man. And he was drafted by Kansas City. First pitch a strike. Crawford has flied to left, grounded out, 0 for 2. Anyway, he was bouncing from the bullpen to the rotation, going back and forth, really not going anywhere. And Jeremy said, I just didn't understand why I was playing baseball. You go out, you get cheered, you get booed, you go home. He said it was such a shallow life. And then one day he was in Denver, kind of walking around from the Denver hotel alone in his thoughts. Curveball flagged by Crawford. So one Crawford gets the other, and we have one away. So Affeldt was taking a walk, and he came across a young girl, maybe 16 years old, dirty, wide-eyed with fear and hungry. And his heart went out to the child. He took her and fed her and gave her some money. And then he realized that's really his purpose. Maybe to play baseball, but just to carry him to do some important things. And the next thing you know, he started a foundation. So he finally found his purpose in baseball. There's a flare to right. That'll be a base hit. So Guerrero 2 for 3 as he singles. Affeldt has written a book. He published it called To Stir a Movement, Life, Justice, and Major League Baseball. He's working on a second book called No Man, a reference to his motto, no man lives for himself. So you have quite a man out there on the mound. Jeremy Affeldt, backed up by George Contos. Jock Peterson at the plate. Alex Guerrero 2 for 3. And the Dodgers leading 2-1 in the 7th inning. Scott Van Slyke comes out on deck. He would bat for Hatcher. Yimi Garcia is throwing in the Dodger bullpen. One out, 7th inning, 2-1 Dodgers. Stiff wind blowing from right to left. Fastball, 0-1. Peterson singled to center in the 2nd inning and popped up in the 4th. Starting pitchers are gone. Vogelsong went 6, allowed 2 runs. Bolsinger went 5 2/3, allowed 1 run. Bolsinger made 81 pitches. Vogelsong 85. On the outside corner. So Affeldt hits 90 on the gun, finds the corner, and as the count his way, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Waiting as a pinch hitter. And now the Dodgers have switched. Jimmy Rollins is on deck, not Scott Van Slyke. 2-2. Rollins certainly figures to get into the ball game with his glove, even if his bat is quiet right now. Mattingly figuring to make the inner defense even stronger with Jimmy at short instead of Justin Turner. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Curveball. Oh, what a beauty. Peterson missed that from me to you. So after a 90-mile-an-hour fastball got the outside corner, the big slow curveball puts Peterson away. Up there and down there. Strikeout number 1 for Affeldt. 6 Dodgers have gone down. Now here's Jimmy Rollins with Turner on deck. Rollins with a very quiet bat, so he didn't start today. Of course, Jimmy's been around a long time. He was the MVP in 2007. He certainly understands how things come and go. One ball and one strike. Affeldt pitching very carefully, trying to defuse a bomb here. Guerrero at first with 2 out. Fastball, 2-1. That's Affeldt's neighborhood. The fastball at 90. Giants have the bottom of the lineup. McGee, Crawford, and Affeldt in the bottom of the 7th. And a drive to left, moving to his right, Aoki to make the play. So Rollins lines out to left. The Dodgers lead Guerrero, who singled, and we're heading for the bottom of the 7th inning. Dodgers 2, Giants 1.
It's the second.
Bottom of the 7th inning, 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. They make the anticipated move. Jimmy Rollins batted 9th, lined out, takes over at short. Justin Turner, who started at short, moves over to 3rd. Yimi Garcia comes in out of the bullpen. Garcia would go in Guerrero's spot, and it means in the 8th inning, Turner would be leading off. So Yimi pitching the bottom of the 7th. And it's Casey McGee, the 3rd baseman. Foul back, 0-1. McGee today hit into a double play and struck out. McGee still has power. There's no doubt about that. But he has struck out 8 times, and he has grounded into 5 double plays. Fastball check. It's going to cost a strike. McGee is hitting 162. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of pressure on him. He doesn't have to be reminded. He's replacing one of the big favorites up here, Pablo Sandoval. So no balls and 2 strikes. Ball 1. McGee is 6'1", 220. From Santa Cruz, went to Fresno State, so he's certainly considered somewhat of a local boy. Two and two. Two and two. Got him. Little slider at the knees, and all McGee can do is complain to the plate umpire and walk away. So he struck out twice, hit into a double play, and the batter is Garcia. Got the corner of the zone, no doubt about it. So Manny Gonzalez from Venezuela rings him up. 7 Giants have struck out. And 1. Gregor Blanco, who scored the winning run last night, is out on deck. Crawford, meanwhile, reached on an error and walked. So Blanco getting ready to hit for Afel. Sergio Romo, along with Contos, down in the bullpen. Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. Giants 1 run, 5 hits. Just off the corner, 1 ball and 1 strike. Crawford thrown out trying to steal. Great throw by Yasmani Grandal. Missed the outside, ball 2, 2-1. Garcia picked up his first major league victory against the Mariners. Trying to hit that outside corner, and he can't do it. And he falls behind now. 3 balls and 1 strike. The opposition against Garcia prior to today, hitting just 111 against him. 3-1 the count. Ground right to Adrian, who hangs it. 2 down. Blanco started to come up. Now he has been called back. Hector Sanchez, who is the 3rd catcher on the Giants squad, and Hector will come up and bat. Sanchez pinch hit and grounded out in the first game. So Hector is 0 for 1, batting for Affeldt. Meanwhile, Rick Honeycutt gone out to talk to Garcia. How the Dodgers want him to pitch to Sanchez. Sanchez can be trouble. If you look at his batting average, he's a switch hitter and hitting only about $1.25, but he's a lot better than that. Last year at Fresno, he didn't do much. With the Giants this year, he started off 3 for 7. Doesn't play very often. Hector's from Venezuela, like the plate umpire. Hector from Maracay. 5'11", about 210. And foul back. That wind continues to blow briskly. And, of course, you see left-hand hitters come up there, and that wind will cut an awful lot of drives in half. 2 out, 7th inning. Dodgers trying to nurse a 2-1 lead. One ball and 1 strike. Garcia throwing hard. It's 94 on the gun. Yimi is 6'1", about 175 from the Dominican. That's in there. We talked about it last night. Garcia has a younger brother who's a pro, and they were playing catch during the offseason. And his younger brother was throwing a slider, and Garcia fell in love with the pitch. So he asked the kid brother, wait a minute, let me see your grip. How do you throw that? And with the new pitch, he came to spring training and made the club and just strikes out pinch hitter Sanchez. So he picks up 2 strikeouts in the 7th inning. And at the end of 7, it's Turner, Puig, and Gonzalez coming up, and the Dodgers lead 2-1.
It's much faster if you go the other way.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 13 years. Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. You'll get real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking, widget, and more. So visit MLB.TV for details. Tough ball game, push against shove. Giants and Dodgers, with the Dodgers leading 2-1. George Cantos coming into his 9th game, 9 of the 17, and brings in a great ERA of less than 1. Cantos pitched briefly in the 7th inning last night. Came in to strike out Rollins. That was the inning when the Dodgers tied it up on the home run by Guerrero. So here's Justin Turner, hit by a pitch, fly to center, and struck out. First pitch hit up in that breeze. Coming over, the wind is going to bring it to Matt, and then all of a sudden it dies on him, and he makes a fine catch. That's like playing in Chicago, the way that wind is blowing. So a nice play, his second really wonderful defensive play. Down he goes, but he holds on to it. So Turner flies out to right field, 1 down. And the batter, Yasiel Puig. Puig flied to right, grounded to second, grounded to short. Has a little 6-game hitting streak on the line. Fastball, line drive, base hit into right center. Let's see if he stops at first. Yes, he does. Maxwell got it back in. So Puig, with a line drive base hit to right center, he is now hitting 7 straight. Dodgers get a hit off Contos. That gives them only their 5th hit. Javi Lopez will be called in. Bochy is heading to the mound, but he's already let his pitcher know. So Contos with Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Bochy wasn't wasting. He was going to send Lopez in right away, even long before Bruce had gotten to the mound. So we have the time. We'll be right back. Veteran left-hander Javi Lopez coming out. ERA a little high for him, 3.5. He's in his 8th game, and he'll be facing Adrian Gonzalez. Prior to this series, Gonzalez against Lopez, 2 for 9. Adrian struck out in the 1st inning, homered in the 3rd, and popped up in the 6th. You have Puig at first. Lopez keeping an eye on him. And a fly ball down the left field line, slicing as it goes foul. It's 339 down there, and he came reasonably close. Earlier in the 3rd inning, he didn't go to left field. He went to center. Pagan went back to the wall. It hits the top of the wall and goes out. That was against Ryan Vogelsong. Both starters pitched very well in the wake of the Kershaw-Bumgarner game last night. Vogelsong gave up 2 runs. Bolsinger 1. So it's still there, 2-1, and we're in the 8th inning with the Dodgers leading. Sidearm fastball hit down to Panic. Crawford back to first. Easy double play, and the inning is over. 4-6-3 double play. Lopez as tough as there is against a left-hand batter. And we're heading for the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 2-1 Dodgers. Aoki, Panik, and Pagan against J.P. Howell. Aoki and Panik are left-handed, but what is interesting for Howell this year, left-hand batters are 5 for 10 against him, hitting .500. Right-handers are hitting just .125. Last year, left-handers had only .170 against him. The year before that, .164. So this will be a test for J.P. Howell with back-to-back left-hand batters. Aoki grounded out, struck out, grounded out again. A strike, 0-1. Aoki grounding to second and to short. Turner plays a foot or so in on the grass at third. 1-1. Aoki's going to hit the dirt a lot. That was not a fastball. It was up, and he went down. He's been down a couple of times in the series, but at no time are they really what you'd call knockdown pitches. They're just trying to stay in on him, because with that open stance, he then comes in on the plate. 1-1. Curveball hit to short. Jimmy Rollins. So they take care of Aoki, keep him off the bases. He goes 0 for 4. 3 ground balls and a strikeout. So that'll bring up Panik, another left-hand hitter. Panik single, struck out, walked, and scored the only Giant run. You may also remember, as Machi has been down in the bullpen, talking about J.P. having troubles against left-hand batters. He had trouble with them against the Cardinal left-handers in last year's playoff. Ball 1. The Cardinal left-hand batters against J.P. Howell last year were 5 for 7. So if you go back from the Cardinal series to the first few games this year, left-handers are 10 for 18 against him. Line drive, base hit, make it 11 for 19. So Panik comes up with his second hit. The tying run is aboard, and the batter is Angel Pagan. So a right-hand batter coming up. Angel Pagan, coming into the series, was 0 for 7 with 3 strikeouts against Howell. Down in the Dodger bullpen, warming up very carefully, Joel Peralta. Machi has company in the Giant bullpen. And you have Pagan and Posey coming up. Ball 1. Santiago Casilla is up with Machi in the Giant pen. 1 ball and no strikes. Dodgers 2 runs, 5 hits. Giants 1 run, 6 hits. Giants have left 5. Dodgers have left 4. 1-0 to Pagan. Down and away. Pagan came into the game hitting .311. He has 4 RBIs. He is grounded into only 2 double plays. 2-0. Posey 1 for 3 on deck. And that's a strike. 2-1. Dodgers got a run in the second inning, a home run by Alex Guerrero. Yep, that's right. He's done it again. Then in the third inning, Gonzalez homered, but the Dodger offense really has not done a thing since. They've had 2 hits since Gonzalez hit the home run. So far, they've been able to get away with it. Two and 1 to count. We'll watch Panik. So will Howell. And Howell's off the rubber. Naturally on a 2-1 count, thinking about hit and run. 1 out in the 8th, 2-1 Dodgers. Trying to avoid a sweep. The last time the Giants beat them 3 straight up here, you have to go back to May of 2013. Runner not going. Ground ball wide at third. Nice pick by Turner for 1. Back to first. Not in time. Pagan runs much too well. So the force play 5-4. Inning is still alive. And Buster Posey coming up. Turner took a little bit of an aim, I think, to make sure his throw was going to be true. Ball was not hit that hard for 2. Howell was praying it would. Instead, he has to go to work, or will he? Because here comes Mattingly. Down in the bullpen, Peralta has been warming up, so he might go right-hander to right-hander. Juan Uribe might also come into the game for defensive purposes at third base. So Turner, who's been so valuable, he's played first base, shortstop, and third, comes out. And Uribe takes over. The question is, would Uribe have made a double play on that ground ball? We will never know, and we will be back.
I like fun as much.
Dodgers trying to cling to a 2-1 lead, trying to shore up the defense at the same time. Juan Uribe is at third, and Joel Peralta on the hill. And Peralta facing Posey, who is 1 for 3. So it's been Bolsinger, followed by Hatcher, Garcia, Howell, and now Peralta. Posey flied to center, single to right, struck out. Pagan, quick runner over there at first, representing the tying run. So Joel Peralta has to get the Dodgers out of a very tough spot and perhaps close. Check swing, pitch in the dirt, no swing. Joel Peralta, been around since 2000, signed by the Oakland A's, came up to the Angels. Joel just turned 39. One ball and no strikes to Buster Posey, hitting .254. Off speed, very high. 2-0. Peralta has been in a lot of games prior to this year. Since he joined Tampa Bay in 2011, 296 appearances, 115 holes. That's coming into this season. Now he's behind the Posey 3-0. Well, the wind is blowing out to left field. Brandon Belt, left-hand batter on deck, thinking they might green light Posey 3-0. You can bet Peralta's thinking about it. And way off the plate. So Posey draws the walk. That sends Pagan to second. And it brings up the left-hand hitting Brandon Belt. By the way, there was another great pitching duel in, of all places, Denver. In the rarefied air, the Rockies held on and beat the Padres 2-1. That pitching matchup, Tyson Ross and Jordan Lyles. So here's Brandon Belt, 2 on, 2 out, 2-1 favor of the Dodgers, and we're in the bottom of the 8th inning. Posey a go-ahead run at first, Pagan a tying run at second. Belt has grounded out, flied out, and singled. 0-1. Belt followed by the right-hand hitting Justin Maxwell. Kendrick plays 10 feet out on the grass in right field. Gonzalez just about on the rim. Rollins is on the rim. And Uribe way off the line at third. 0-1. Dropped that low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Puig maybe up a couple of steps in right field. Deep in center is Peterson. Big moment in the ball game. 1 ball and 1 strike to Brandon Belt, hitting 179. Pagan and Posey out on the lines. 1 ball, 1 strike. And that's low. So Peralta came in to face Posey and walked him. And now he's behind the Belt. 2 balls and 1 strike. Dangerous position to be in. Two balls and 1 strike. And pulled foul down the line. 2-2. So deuces are wild in a very tough ball game. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Dodgers lead 2-1. Dodgers led 2-0 in the 3rd inning. Giants came back finally to get a run in the 6th. Now trying to at least tie it up. Posey at second. At first, Pagan at second. And Belt waiting. Three and 2, wouldn't you know? So the runners will be going. A little edge for Pagan for sure, and even Posey. 3 and 2 to Brandon Belt, and this crowd coming alive. Belt has only walked once so far this year. So a very aggressive hitting first baseman. Runners ready to go. 3 and 2, taken for ball 4. So Peralta comes in, walks Posey, walks Belt, and that will bring up Justin Maxwell. The Dodgers probably thought, okay, we'll have Belt, who's in a slump, but he goes 3-2 and gets the walk. So now Peralta faces Justin Maxwell, who has singled, fouled out, and struck out. Bases loaded, 2 out in the 8th, 2-1 Dodgers. Pagan, Posey, and Belt all taking their leads. All the heat on Peralta now. Slow and high, ball 1. Only 71 degrees. Peralta annoyed at himself. Take a look at this one. Just floated up there. And the chant, beat LA. Majority downstairs, all the fans are standing. 1 ball, no strikes. Ball 2. So Mattingly and Honeycutt, not much else they can do. They've used Hatcher, Garcia, Howell, and now Peralta, and Peralta really struggling. 2 walks and a 2-0 count. Fastball, line drive, and perhaps a game-saving catch by Howie Kendrick. Oh, what a break. Kendrick making a remarkable catch. That's certainly worth 2 runs and the lead for the Giants. What a play by Howie Kendrick to flag the line drive. For the Giants in the 8th, no runs, 1 hit. Peralta off the hook, and what a huge hook it was. And at the end of 8, Dodgers 2. A 2-1 lead. Howie Kendrick, who was clinging to that line drive, certainly saved the Dodgers bacon. With 2 out and the bases loaded, he saves 2 runs with that diving catch, not to mention what he does to the heart and soul of Peralta. Down in the Giant dugout, you can see they're shocked. Though Kendrick, 10 years in the big leagues, I don't think he's ever made a bigger play than that. And so Howie will lead it off. Gene Machi will be pitching to him. Machi with a hold in his 9th game. Kendrick has struck out, walked, and grounded out. Skies one to right down the line. Here comes Maxwell running hard, and it's in the stands. 0-1 to count. Maxwell, who hit that line drive that looked like it might even win the game, and then Kendrick takes it away from him. 2 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. They've left 4. 1 run, 6 hits. The Giants have left 8, thanks to leaving the bases full in the 8th inning. Fastball fouled off, 0-2. When the Giants come up in the bottom of the 9th, they do have McGee, Crawford, and the pitcher spot. They have quite a few fellas eligible. No doubt. We figure Susac and Duffy along with Blanco. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Dean Machi from El Tigre, the Tiger in Venezuela. Spent about 13 years in the minors. Pedro Baez warming up in the Dodger bullpen. Baez, there was no one throwing when Peralta was doing the high wire act, walking Posey and Belt, and then he was lucky on the line drive that was caught by Kendrick. So thematically and Wallach, that was a brutal inning, and they got away with it. 2-2. Fastball speared by Machi. So 1 good play deserves another. Kendrick robs a hit, and now Machi takes one possibly away from him. 1 out, top of the 9th, and the batter Yasmani Grandal. Grandal is grounded to second, grounded to short, and struck out. Grandal looking for his first hit in the series. Panic is out on the grass. Belt deep at first. Crawford is on the rim at short. And a roller. It'll have to be Panic coming in from right field to make the play. So 2 out, top of the 9th inning, and Carl Crawford coming up. Crawford flied to left, grounded to second, grounded to short. The Dodgers 2 runs. They came on true bolts of electricity. The home run by Guerrero in the 2nd, the home run by Gonzalez in the 3rd. That's been the attack, and they're trying to make the 2 runs stand up. Remember, the Giants were averaging a little more than 2 runs a game until the Dodgers got here. They had 6 to beat Adrian and the Dodgers. Last night they had 3 to do it. Today they're down 2-1. 2-0 to Crawford. Uribe on deck. The count to Crawford. Uribe came in a little late. 3-1 the count. Vogelsong, Affeldt, Contos, Lopez, and Machi. Bolsinger, Hatcher, Garcia, Howell, and Peralta. Slicing fly ball. Aoki in pursuit. He's there. So Crawford, a fly ball to left, right down the line. And here we go to the pressure-packed bottom of the 9th inning. Pedro Baez getting ready to come in, and the Dodgers trying to hold on to a 2-1 lead. Pedro Baez has never had a major league save, not yet. But the Dodgers are asking him to do it right now, and do it in a hurry if he can, after the sweat job that happened in the 8th inning with Joel Peralta. So Baez, the hard-throwing right-hander for the Giants. McGee is due to lead it off. He would be followed by Crawford, and then we would see about a batter for Machi. Howie Kendrick, who saved the Dodgers bacon in the 8th inning, and McGee checking in. McGee hit into a double play and struck out twice. 0 for 7 in the series, and still trying to make a contribution since replacing Pablo Sandoval. So Pedro about ready, making McGee wait. Baez, 27 years old, from Boni in the Dominican Republic. Fastball strike, 0-1. Pedro is 6'2", a good 200 pounds. Another fastball away, easily hitting 96. Dodgers signed him as a free agent back in 2007. Fastball and slider. 1 ball and 1 strike. In the dirt. There are those who say the 9th inning is just like any other inning. Don't think about it, just come in and pitch. No way. There is nothing quite like trying to close it. 2 balls and 1 strike. And ball 3. So Peralta walked 2 and almost let the game get away. And now Baez comes in and falls behind 3-1. Baez 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. And base hit to right field. So McGee dying to do something, anything to make a contribution, and he comes up with a leadoff single. So again, the Giants have the tying run aboard. So that brings up the dangerous Crawford, who has reached on an error, walked and grounded out. In looking at Crawford this year, hitting 8th, which means you're hitting in front of the pitcher, of course. He does not have a sacrifice. Matt Duffy is now running for McGee. So Duffy at first, held on by Gonzalez, and the Dodgers again trying to wiggle off the hook. Crawford will be followed by Gregor Blanco. And a high fly ball into deep right center. There's nobody out there. That's going to go to the wall. Here comes Duffy to score, and Crawford is going to wind up with a triple. So Peralta was downright lucky to get out of a jam, and Baez gives up a single to right and a long triple. And the Dodgers, who have not been swept here since 2013, are in a lot of trouble. The winning run at third, nobody out. It looked like they made walk Blanco, at least watching the left hand It looked like Mattingly was waving 4 fingers. But Yasmani Grandal goes into a crouch. The infield is up. The outfield is shallow. And Blanco trying to do it. Remember, the Dodgers have not been swept here since 2013. And here's Blanco, who scored the winning run last night, now has to knock in the winning run today. 2-2, bottom of the 9th, runner at third, and nobody out. Ball 1. Two hits in the inning, 8 hits in the game for the Giants. There he is, Brandon Crawford, the winning run at third. And a good save by Grandal. That could have gone to the backstop, and that could have been the end of the game. Grandal with dirt in his eye. So he just saved not only a wild pitch, but the game for the moment. So Kendrick saved it in the 8th. Grandal for the moment, saving it in the 9th, but only for the moment. So Jimmy Rollins coming in. Remember, Pedro has never had a save. He's really asked to close, and he's never really done that. And all of a sudden it jumps up at you again. There is no inning like the 9th. 2-0 to count to Gregor Blanco. 2-1. Blanco backs out, looks down to Roberto Kelly, who's talking to Brandon Crawford. So Blanco waiting. 2-1. Fouled away. 2-2 the count. Crowd delirious with joy, at least most of them. There are quite a few Dodger fans here. But 41,240 certainly ringing it out for the Giants. Dodger outfield is shallow. The infield is up. The winning run is 90 feet away. And Gregor Blanco from Caracas, Venezuela, trying to get his man home. Crawford. 2-2 to Gregor. Fastball got him at 97. So Blanco goes down. Now the pest, as we call him, Aoki, will be coming up. A very tough man to pitch to. Aoki has grounded out 3 times and struck out. Remember Crawford bunted in a run in game 1 of the series? Well, Aoki's a pretty good bunter. And we'll see what he might do here with the infield up. Crawford, Peterson, very shallow. Puig with the stronger arm is still shallow, but he's up. 2-2, bottom of the 9th, 1 out, winning run at third, Brandon Crawford. High pop fly going out is Rollins. Coming in is Crawford. It will be Rollins. And holding at third is Crawford. So 1 minute the Giants had the winning run at third with nobody out. That winning run is still there with 2 out. And Joe Panik, who won the game last night with a fly ball coming up. So Aoki pops it up to Jimmy Rollins. So 2 out in the 9th. Joe Panik singled to right, struck out, walked and scored a run, and singled to left. So he is 2 for 3 with a run scored, and he's been on base 3 of the 4 times. Infield back to a normal depth. Uribe right at the bag, and the outfield goes back to a normal depth. Almost hit him, almost threw it away. Ball one. So Baez, who lives by the sword, trying not to be cut by it. He does not have a wild pitch, but Grandal has saved him twice now. On deck, Angel Pagan. 1 ball and no strikes. High fly ball with 2 out. Peterson and Crawford. It will be Crawford. So the fly ball comes at the wrong time. They leave Crawford at third. Baez survives, but he does give up the tying run. And at the end of 9, they are locked in 2-2.
Switch to Time Warner.
Dodgers locked in through 9, 2-2. The Dodgers, their 2 runs coming on home runs by Guerrero and Gonzalez, and the Giants pecking away. Finally got a run home on a couple of hits, a walk in the 6th. Stranded and lost a huge opportunity in the 9th when Crawford had tripled, and they left him at third. Howie Kendrick saved the Dodgers and Peralta in the 8th. So the Dodgers in some ways very fortunate to still be playing, and it'll be Uribe followed by Peterson and then Rollins against Santiago Casilla, the 2 fellas from the same little town, Uribe and Casilla. Breaking ball strike, and the count 0-1. Notes and more notes. Yasiel Puig doing a little studying. No balls and 1 strike, they count. Fastball. Juan Nicasio gets up in the Dodger bullpen. He hasn't thrown a pitch yet. Uribe and Casilla, their lives certainly touched in the little town in the Dominican. In fact, Casilla remembers going to Uribe's house and asking him for some baseball socks. Uribe gave it to the kid, and now here they are head to head. Ball 2. 2-1 to Juan Uribe. Casilla, an even 6, 220. 35 years old. Two and 1. Fastball hit late and foul. 2-2. Two balls and 2 strikes to Uribe. Giants have left 9. Dodgers have left 4, but the one left on base that has a gnaw at the Dodgers. Crawford tripled in the tying run with nobody out, and they left him. And Casilla goes 3-2. So Blanco struck out. Aoki popped up and panic flied to left. Jock Peterson waiting on deck for the Dodgers. We're in the 10th inning. Crowd hollered themselves out in the 9th inning. Now very quiet. And poked into right field for a base hit. So last night Casilla took a hit away from Uribe, but not today, as Uribe singles to right. Now the batter is Jock Peterson. For the Dodgers, since the home run by Adrian Gonzalez in the 3rd inning. That's the 3rd hit. So they've been very quiet. At one time 11 in a row retired by Giant pitchers. Peterson single, popped up, struck out, shows bunt, and takes ball 1. Remember, Jimmy Rollins batted for Hatcher, and so Rollins bats 9th and he's on deck. So Jimmy waits. Peterson checks with Bundy. Showing bunt and a high strike. Again, Peterson checking after Mattingly passed whatever. Bunt on or off. And a good bunt picked up by Belt. Only play is to first. He had a long look at second and then decided he might not be able to make the play. So Uribe into second. Peterson does his job, moves his man along very well. That was a tough pitch to bunt. See the angle of the bat, but he was still able to get the bat on the ball and get it down. Belt thought and then decided no. So the Dodgers have a tiebreaker. They have Rollins at the plate. They have Ethier in the on-deck circle. He would be batting for Baez. Rollins hit the ball hard, line to left field to Aoki back in the 7th inning. Jimmy tied up on that pitch. 0-1 the count. Rollins is 0 for 7 as a right-handed batter and .229 as a left-handed hitter. Uribe at second, 1 away, 10th inning, 2-2. Fastball hit to Belt. He'll do it himself as Uribe takes third. So a tiebreaker 90 feet away. The Giants had the winning run 90 feet away with nobody out. And here's Andre Ethier hitting for Baez. To match him up, we'll look at Casilla and we'll look at Andre Ethier. Ethier 3 for 5 with a double in the pass against Casilla. And did it hit him? Yes, it did. Otherwise, it's a wild pitch and the Dodgers get the run. So Ethier hit on his knees. He'll be going to first base in a moment. Remember, the very first pitch of the game made by Vogelsong hit Justin Turner. Now this pitch nailed him on the right knee. Andre walking very gingerly. Dave Righetti going out to talk to Casilla. Though Ethier, an important man over there if he can't run. Though they're checking Yusmeiro Petit throwing in the pen. So if the pitch didn't hit Ethier, it might have gone to the backstop and Uribe might have scored. Ethier, who took it on the side of the right knee. And apparently he's well enough to stay in. Take another look at the pitch. Casilla lets it fly. That right leg is locked. Hit him right on the side and went to the backstop. Although we can't hear him, I know Ethier let out a scream. So Uribe's at third, and here is Yasiel Puig. Puig flied to right, 2 ground balls, single to right. The outfield fanned out straight away. And Yasiel trying to pick up Uribe, his buddy, and give the Dodgers a lead. And ball 1. Starts him at 91. In the bottom of the inning for the Giants, Pagan, Posey, and Belt, the numbers 3, 4, and 5 hitters. One and 0. Casilla's not in any hurry, and Puig's not about to just hang in the box. Boy, that wind is really blowing to left field. And ball 2 on deck as the flags are at right angles to the pole. Any ball hit in the air to left field can be a problem. Two and 0 to Yasiel. Taking all the way, bat on his shoulder. I think he told everybody in the house he was going to take that pitch. So Uribe restless at third. Ethier right at the bag at first. Belt not holding. 2 balls and 1 strike. Hold up on ball 3. So the relievers, Peralta, Baez, and now Casilla doing a high wire act. Adrian Gonzalez waiting on deck. 3-1 to Puig. Bochy has used Affelt, Contos, Lopez, Machi, and Casilla. And he has Petit in the pen. 3-1 to Puig. And on the outside corner. All right, the crowd up on its feet now. Not cheering offensively. This time they're up cheering defensively. Ethier ready to go from first with 2 out. Big pitch. 3-2 to Yasiel Puig. And ball 4 to load him up. And Adrian Gonzalez will be coming up. So the Dodgers load the bases with 2 out. Gonzalez came into the game 0 for 9. He was 0 for 10 when he hit his home run. Since then he has popped up and grounded into a double play. So Uribe's the man. He's the go-ahead runner at third. 8 RBIs in the clutch for Adrian. And off speed for a strike. Casilla and Gonzalez. Adrian coming into the series just 1 for 6 against him. Uribe and Ethier and Puig. And the big man is Uribe with 2 out. Again, Panic a good 15 feet out on the grass in right field. Still able to make a play on a ground ball. Crawford is up the middle. One ball, 1 strike. In the inning, Uribe single to right. Peterson sacrificed. Rollins grounded out. Then Ethier hit by a pitch as a pinch hitter. And Puig walked on a 3-2 pitch to load him up. 2-2, top of the 10th. Time. Giants winning 6-2, 3-2, and locked in 2-2 today. And ball 2. So now a little heat on Casilla. He doesn't have much room for error. 2 balls, 1 strike. Casilla originally signed by the boys across the bay, the Oakland A's. 2-1. Foul ball off to the left, out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Bases loaded, 10th inning in a 2-2 tie. Dodgers trying to avoid being swept, and the Giants trying to sweep them here for the first time since May of 2013. So another big pitch. A series of very big pitches the last 2 innings. 2-2 to Gonzalez. Ground foul. Casilla working hard. He's made 23 pitches. That foul ball almost got Scott Van Slyke and Jimmy Rollins. 2-2. Casilla has been up and down with the Giants since he joined them in 2010. Time. Boy, this is the time when you earn your money. Slap foul the other way with a fastball at 94 down. Still 2-2 to Adrian. 24 pitches made so far by Casilla here in the 10th inning. All right, they wind up. Go after each other again. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Got him. So Gonzalez strikes out with the bases loaded. The Dodgers leave Uribe at third. The Giants left Crawford at third. And we head to the bottom of the 10th inning in a 2-2 tie. and Nicasio. The best pitching job for the Dodgers in relief. Yimi Garcia pitched a 1-2-3 seventh inning and struck out 2. Brandon Crawford was left at third with nobody out in the 9th inning. So the Giants had the golden opportunity. Now their big boys come up again in the 10th. Pagan, Posey, and Belt. Pagan switch hitter facing Juan Nicasio. And a strike. Nicasio, big fella, he's 6'3", 210, 29 years old in August, from San Francisco de Macorís in the Dominican. 0-1. On the corner. So Pagan in a hole. 0-2. 2 runs, 6 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. They've left 7. 2 runs, 8 hits, no errors. For the Giants, they have left 9. One and 2. Nicasio, originally signed by the Rockies, came up in 2011 to stay, with brief journeys down to Colorado Springs. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Two and 2. In the 9th inning, McGee singled to right. Crawford tripled him home. That tied up the game, and the winning run was 90 feet away. Blanco struck out. Aoki popped up, and panic fly deep to left. That forced it into overtime, and the Dodgers left Uribe at third in the top of the 10th. Check swing. 3-2. Crowd 41,240, and they've loved every minute of it. Three and 2. Angel Pagan. He's 1 for 4. And probably bangs it into left center. Base hit. Crawford over to get it. Pagan holding. And once again, the Giants have a chance to win here in the 10th inning. So Pagan comes up with his second hit. He's 2 for 5. And now Buster Posey. Fly to center. Single to right. Struck out and walked. 5 for 10 with a home run in his career against Nicasio. And on deck, Brandon Belt. Fouled away. Giants have had men all over the place in the 6th inning, in the 8th inning, in the 9th inning, and now a leadoff single in the 10th. Boshi figuring now has to be the time. 0-1 to Buster Posey. One ball and 1 strike. In the top of the 10th inning, Santiago Casilla made 25 pitches and was able to survive when he struck out Gonzalez with the bases loaded. One and 1. High fly ball Peterson is coming over. It's his play. And Jock makes the catch. So 1 out. Pagan holding in the batter, Brandon Belt. Of course, if you weren't with us in the 8th inning, Joel Peralta almost let the ball game get away. He came in and walked Posey, sending Pagan to second. He walked Belt to load up the bases, and with 2 out, Maxwell got a base hit to center field except for Howie Kendrick, who made a head-first diving stab of the line drive, and the Dodgers were fortunately out of the inning. What a clutch play that was. So here's Belt, grounded out, flied out, singled and walked, 1 for 3. Ball 1. Pagan 1 for 1 in stolen bases if they want to run him. Held on by Gonzalez. Big rip. 1 ball and 1 strike. Nicasio come from a farming background in the Dominican. His dad farmed coffee and rice, tended to the cows, and so did Juan. Brandon Belt fouls it away. Coming into this year, Brandon Belt was 1 for 12 against Nicasio. That would be a .083 batting average. One out, 10th inning. Pagan at first. 2-2. Pitch out. Dodgers thinking Pagan might go. Pagan, the center fielder, has good running speed. 2-2. Pagan has stolen as many as 37. Did that for the Mets a couple of years ago. 2-2. He goes. Pitch is high. Grandal's throw. Not in time. So the potential winning run in scoring position. Pagan took a look, but he's in there. Got a good jump. Good throw by Grandal. So Angel Pagan, who figured to do some running, anybody that's stolen as many as 37 in the big leagues. Last year, Pagan stole 16. So Mattingly now wants to talk. They're going to question that play at second base, obviously. Well, the Dodgers might have seen something we didn't, because it looked like a safe in there steal. Big thing, does he stay on the bag, I guess. Let's see. It looks like he has it beaten there. And right foot still on the bag, still on the bag. Here's the play again. He's in there. Looks. Well, the Dodgers evidently thought they saw something. After the 2 shots we had, it certainly looked like Pagan had stolen second base. Don saw something. They've taken the headset off. He is safe. I wonder what they saw. I mean, it didn't look like anything. It wasn't close. But they saw something. So anyway, Pagan steals second without a doubt. Brandon Belt is up there trying to pick him up, and hitting behind Belt is Justin Maxwell. Of course, when you've lost 2 in a row up here, and when you're on the tenterhooks of being swept, you might have illusions. All right, Pagan standing at second base. Nicasio and Grandal. Pitch selection. Also, Grandal looking over to the Dodger dugout for the moment. Mattingly gestured, and he gestured to put him on. So even though Belt has not had any success in the past against Nicasio, in this kind of a spot, 3-2, they will walk him, and it's ruled an intentional pass. So the stolen base turns things around on the Dodgers. First and second, 1 out. Maxwell single to left, fouled out, struck out, and it was Justin Maxwell who hit that line drive that would have won the game, except for the diving catch by Howie Kendrick. So he's up there with another chance to do it. He's done well. Home run, 3 RBIs with runners in scoring position. It's been a parade for the Dodgers. Bolsinger, Hatcher, Garcia, Howell, Peralta, Baez, and Nicasio. One out. And now Grandal out to talk to Nicasio, and the crowd lets him have it. Maxwell has distinguished himself in the series. He made that dazzling catch with a ball hit by Puig in foul ground, hurt his knee, but stayed in. Last night, he hit the ball hard, went 0 for 3 and was hit by a pitch. Had a triple and a home run in the first game. One ball and no strikes. We're in the bottom of the 10th inning. 2-2. The Giants threatened in the 8th to win it, threatened in the 9th to win it, and they're threatening again in the 10th. Ground ball hard inside third down the line. Here comes Pagan, and the Giants win it 3-2 and sweep the Dodgers. Justin Maxwell, fastball at the knees. He pulled it inside third and down the line. No chance for Uribe to make a play. No chance for Crawford to do anything with it. And a great chance for Pagan to score unmolested. So it's taken a while. The Dodgers came up here with a 7-game winning streak, and the world was just wonderful. The Dodgers coming against a club that had lost 9 out of 10. And what happens? It's the Giants who get up on their feet and win 3 straight for the first time since 2013. Dodgers and Padres tomorrow night. Talk to you then. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good afternoon, everybody.